Who the fuck are you? With the sheer number of weapons and items available in Fortnite's sandbox, it's only natural that a few would be a little less than memorable. Whether they were only around for a themed season, locked to a specific limited time mode, or simply just not good enough to be worth remembering, I just want to go back and take a look at some of these more forgotten items, starting with some you might remember and gradually getting more and more obscure as we go along, making this essentially an elite ball knowledge tier list for Fortnite nerds such as myself. Researching this topic is quite difficult because, it's hard to remember stuff to add when the entire point is that these items are not memorable. So if you go commenting, "Oh, you forgot the blip blop rifle," that's fine, but I probably won't read it. Alright, let's begin. The two-shot shotgun dropped at the start of Chapter 3's Vibin, and it's definitely one of those guns you might not like when you first use it, and I was very much the same. But once you get into a good rhythm with it, it can actually be really fun to pick up kills with. It's got this burst pump mechanism that makes it really quite unique to use, and yet it was only in this one season, and has yet to come back in any form, including reload. While I love this thing, I'd be inclined to call it one of the more obscure Fortnite weapons, but definitely the most well remembered on this list. The dual suppressed pistols are notable for being exclusive to Chapter 2's Spy Games LTM series through a very specific perk combo. It's literally just a merger of the dual pistols and suppressed pistol, but it makes for a neat little weapon that is pretty obscure, but at the same time I think it's achieved a level of notoriety due to its obscurity, which is a little paradoxical in nature. In fact, it was actually one of the more requested weapons to come to creative, and it did eventually. This paradoxical effect also applies to the Eye of the Storm tracker, but I think it's worth a mention regardless. This backpack was in the game for only 30 minutes in Season 4, and there's a small amount of footage of it online. For the lay player, this is definitely a forgotten item, but for those absolute fucking nerds like myself, this is probably a pretty well-known item. The Dialer Drop is an item I've wanted to exist for years. Being able to cool down not only a supply drop, but special medic and vehicle drops as well, all on a whim, is super cool. And it's actually an idea Epic was toying with very early into Fortnite's existence, which makes it even stranger that they chose to drop it in Chapter 3's final season, where it didn't really fit, and then immediately take it away again, never to be seen again. I don't know, man, I think this is an item that could exist in pretty much any season. I would love to see the Dialer Drop return in a more regular loot pool placement. In a similar vein, the Grapple Glider is a pretty general utility item that appeared halfway through Paradise and then was shortly vaulted. This is pretty much just a dumbed down version of Jules' glider gun from Chapter 2 Season 3, but it's a neat enough mobility item, just not very notable or memorable. The Nuka-Cola is the Fallout tie-in heal from Chapter 5's Wrecked. This is actually a really solid healing item, splashing out 25 health instantly and then replenishing 75 shield over time, essentially making it a slightly better version of the original Slurp Juice. However, because it's not all that crazy and it only existed in one season that had more pressing matters to deal with, I don't see much talk around the Nuka-Cola's inclusion into Wrecked. It's a beneficiary addition, but it doesn't really shake up the meta in any meaningful ways. The Proper Fire from Chapter 2 Season 7 is a real quirky little item. You can turn into a prop and hide, that's pretty neat, but the item selection is pretty limited and you could already pay NPCs to turn you into a random prop, so I think this thing didn't really get as much use as a result. And with it being pretty linked to the alien invasion theme, it just hasn't had an opportunity to come back. It's not in creative mode either because the prop gun exists, so yeah, I would call the Proper Fire somewhat obscure. The Fire Trap is the only trap that I would really call obscure, and it's actually the most recent one introduced. It was added in Chapter 2 Season 4 and only existed in that season. It's pretty much just a trap that scorches players who get too close. I don't think it was super useful, kind of on the same tier as the Poison Dart trap from Season 8. All the same, I think it's pretty heat. The Burst SMG is a weapon that I think really deserves a mention because it is, as of 2025, the only Chapter 1 item to never return in any form ever. It's actually not even a terrible gun, just kind of a middle-of-the-road burst sub. It just appeared halfway through Season 9, disappeared the very next season, and never made a return. It's even been the base inspiration for several subsequent items, but the original Burst SMG won't see its return until Fortnite OG Season 9 late into 2026, some 7 years after its previous appearance. I like this thing though, it's actually surprisingly good, so when it inevitably does make its grand return, pick it up, give it a try. The dual Fiend Hunters are one of those weapons that I'm just a little confused on why this exists. They were created as a doubled up version of the Fiend Hunter crossbow for Chapter 2 Season 8, which does mean that they are quite effective against cube fiends and cube brutes, but outside of that they have very little utility, and it's no surprise that they haven't found their way back out of the vault. The flashlight pistol is one of the very few creative exclusive weapons, and it's interesting because it's also the only weapon in the game to actually come with a flashlight attached. I've always thought it would be cool to see this thing in Battle Royale. In fact, I don't really know what its purpose in creative is. It's a very strange thing to put development time in just to put in creative mode. Alas, 6 chapters in and it's yet to appear in Battle Royale. Maybe someday. Fun fact though, the base pistol here is actually the same as that of the suppressed pistol, just without the suppressor, obviously. Mysterio's Mythic Sovereign shotgun is the only mythic variant on this list, and that is for a special reason. This is the only shotgun in Fortnite history to come with a suppressor attached, and I think that's pretty neat. In fact, that one piece of trivia is so obscure I didn't even know this until recently that I think that alone earns it a spot on this list. Also, like, who went out of their way to kill Mysterio? His medallion sucked. Did you actually use this shotgun that often? I'm bundling these two in together since they came out of the same Winterfest. Chapter 6 introduced the Blizzard Grenade and Icy Feet. The Blizzard Grenade is essentially just a frosty stink bomb that also disables sprinting, and for some reason is identical to the Chiller Grenade in design. And the Icy Feet applies, well, Icy Feet, making you all slippery and slidey. I suppose the latter is useful for slightly faster rotations, particularly going downhill, but I never really found myself using either of these all that much. Also, why does the Icy Feet have durability? It wasn't exactly going to be busted without it. On the topic of seasonal items, there's also the Cupid's Crossbow. This crossbow has appeared for the Valentine's events of 2018, 2019, and 2021, but has not been seen outside of those. However, the neat thing is that it's actually the original crossbow item. You know, the classic crossbow item that's just called the crossbow is actually a reskin of Cupid's, but with middling player damage and a laughable structure damage of 1, it's not hugely surprising that the Cupid's crossbow doesn't stick around in the minds of players. Also, I'm a Fortnite player and I'm going to die alone, and this reminds me of love, so screw the damn Cupid's crossbow. Decoy grenades do pretty much what they say on the tin, spawning bots duplicates of the player with questionable skill to distract opponents. The decoy grenade has only been in Chapter 2 Season 2 and Chapter 2 Remix so far, and I actually did have a little fun with them, but I don't think they're super memorable outside of the initial novelty of spawning duplicates of yourself. In fact, I was screen sharing the thumbnail making process for this video on Discord, and my friend asked, "What the hell is that on the right?" So that really should tell you all you need to know about the bloody decoy grenade. I forgot the name. I'm literally reading a script and I forgot the name. Come on! Chapter 2 Season 2 also brought the Kingsman, which is a real weird item. There was no promotion for it anywhere, no mention of it on socials, nothing. It just appeared one day and disappeared again about 6 weeks later. The Kingsman was an umbrella that you could use to redeploy, but also doubled as a melee weapon, and no one's really sure if it was an actual tie-in to the Kingsman movie franchise. That includes Epic employees, by the way. No one has a clue what this thing is. But it was here, and then it wasn't. And that's the way the news goes. The Spire jump boots from Primal has to be a pretty obscure one, purely from just how far out of your way you had to go to obtain them. You had to defeat a Spire Guardian at one of the smaller Spire towers across the map, then pick up and carry this heavy runestone all the way to a pedestal in the actual Spire in the middle of the map. And doing all that just nets you a Super Mario triple jump. Jump twice for low grav, thrice for a glider redeploy. It's not technically useless, you can use it for rotations, but it sure as hell was not worth doing all that busy work for, so very few people would actually go on to use the Spire jump boots. The Revive Grenade is literally just a grenade that revives downed players. It was exclusive to the Bodyguard LTM, which has only been in the game once, so I think its spot on this list is well earned. I mean, had you heard of the Revive Grenade before approximately 18 seconds ago? Don't lie to me. Cypher PK's Trap Tower is a pretty nifty exotic portafort that replicates the iconic Trap Tower from some of Cypher PK's earliest streams. It was added for his Icon Series tournament. It's not really meant to be experienced outside of that setting, but it was actually added to Creative by accident for a few hours, and I think it's more interesting and forgotten than its lookalike you've probably heard of, the Playground Spiky Stadium from Chapter 1. If you forgot about that too, there you go, there's a reminder. Enjoy. And finally, the most obscure niche Fortnite ball knowledge item of all, the portable portable upgrade bench. This is quite literally just a throwable item version of the upgrade bench, present only in Chapter 2 Season 3. I like upgrade benches a lot. I think they're a great addition to the game, and I think being able to take one on the go with you is pretty sweet, but also not entirely worth giving an item slot up for, so I can see why they didn't stick around for long. And that's a wrap on the Elite Ball Knowledge Test, 20 of Fortnite's more obscure forgotten items. I'm sure there are a few more items I missed out because ironically I forgot them, but if there's one thing to take away from this, it's that no one knows just what the f*** the Kingsman is, dude, no one knows.